Welcome to the Storytelling That Sticks for Business and Life podcast. I'm your keynote, TED Talk and story coach, Doug Stevenson. In this podcast series, I'm going to share with you some simple and practical storytelling techniques and hacks that will make you stand out from the competition so that you can get paid to speak, or to give a TED Talk that goes viral, or to simply tell your story in a way that makes a difference in the world. You'll learn how to choose, craft, and deliver stories that stick. Personal stories from your amazing life, business stories, leadership and sales stories, stories that are marketable and memorable, stories that sell you and your product or service. My job as your virtual keynote and story coach is to help you design and deliver stories and speeches that get people to do what you want them to do, or to consider a new perspective. If you're serious about using storytelling to advance your career, to get paid to speak, or simply to get your message across in a more engaging and compelling manner, this podcast is for you. All right, well, let's get started. Every morning, as I'm having my cup of coffee and reading the news, I read about people who have recently died for various reasons. Some of them are famous actors and musicians, famous people, but many of them are simply people who made a difference in some way. And what I find most interesting about all of these deaths, all these people, is that I wouldn't be reading about them at all. They wouldn't be getting any press coverage if they hadn't made an impact in some way from the work they did or their contribution to society. In each of their very different ways, they made a difference because they had a purpose they believed in. That purpose guided their choices and kept them on track throughout their lives. And in the end, we are all better for their contribution. Purpose is like a North Star on a compass. With a strong purpose, you'll make deliberate choices about how to spend your time, what direction your life will go, what activities you get involved with, who to spend time with and who not to spend time with. And in the end, living a life with purpose will allow you at the end of your days to feel good about your life. Because no matter how big or important or seemingly insignificant the impact you had on the world, you followed your North Star and stayed true to your organic purpose. Now, I'm going to use the term organic purpose here because I believe that your purpose is organic to you from the moment of your birth. It's your natural tendency, your natural aptitudes. And you see it in children right away. I know you do too. Some kids are sporty and physical, and others are more cerebral. They like to read and they ask a lot of interesting questions. Some kids are outgoing. They're born leaders. You see it on the playground and with their siblings. They want to be in control, while other kids are quiet. They're followers. They're quite content to sit back and let others take the lead. They're more introverted and quiet. If you were allowed and encouraged to develop your organic purpose to go with it, you'll eventually find jobs and careers and activities that express your natural aptitudes and abilities. And on the other hand, if you deny your purpose, either because of societal pressures or your own insecurity, or because your parents forced you to do or be someone that you didn't want to be, you will suffer the pain of disassociation from your true organic self. Now, some people are lucky enough to have figured out what their organic purpose is early on. We see it in child prodigies who can play complex classical piano pieces at 4 years of age, or who can excel at math and science well beyond their classroom education. Some kids are just amazing, way earlier than they should be. Now, lately, for some unknown reason, I've been flashing back to a near-death experience I had back in 1975 when I was 25. I was leaving the theater after rehearsal for a play that I was in. And as I was cruising down the street on my way home, I was approaching an intersection and I had the green light. But as I was just about to enter the intersection, I saw out of the corner of my eye a huge car barreling into the intersection from my left. And I realized he wasn't going to stop for the red light. And in an instant, my lizard brain reacted and I pushed the accelerator to the floor and braced for impact. And then, blam! This huge 1970s boat of a car, a Pontiac or a Buick or an Oldsmobile or something, rammed into me. And my car went flying and spinning out of control. I was frozen in my seat with my arms extended and locked with an iron grip on the steering wheel. And when my car finally stopped spinning and skidding, I ended up about 30 feet, about 9 meters down the street. So I looked around and everything was upside down. I was lying there on my left shoulder, leaning against the driver's side door, just inches from the pavement, because the car was on its side. And for a few moments, I have no idea how long, I just sat there dazed, frozen in place. I wasn't thinking about anything because I didn't understand what had just happened. But I knew one thing. I was still alive. If I hadn't floored the gas pedal, hit the accelerator in that split second, the car that hit me would have come right through the driver's side door and likely killed me. But as it turned out, he hit me 4 feet back from the driver's side door by the rear wheels. My car was totaled. The frame was bent, out of shape, beyond repair. But I was alive with barely a scratch on me. It was weird. In the moments that followed, once I was able to climb up and out of the car through the passenger side window, I was sitting on the front lawn of a nearby house while cop cars blocked off the street and a tow truck hauled my car away. And all I could think about was, why? Why did that happen? Was it a wake-up call? And how did I know how to hit the gas like that? Was it instinct? Was it God saving me because I was supposed to do something with my life? It was all so weird. But one thing was clear to me. I'd escaped death. I was 4 feet away from being dead. 4 feet. Now, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of stories of people who have survived near-death experiences simply because of a few feet that separated them from getting struck by a bullet or hit by a car or struck by lightning or whatever. I'm sure you've heard the stories too of survivors who tell the story of being inches or feet or moments away from death. Now, back in that time when I was 25 years old, I didn't ask the question, why am I still alive? Back then, I thought my organic purpose was clear. It was to make people feel good. If even for a few fleeting minutes or hours, by being an actor in the movies, by being funny and making people laugh and feel good. I've always loved to make people feel good. It was easy for me. It came naturally. There was no effort to it. From a very early age, I just knew how to make people laugh and feel good. But now, when I read the death notices in the newspapers, I question why some people live into their 90s while others are taken away from us in their 20s or 30s or 40s. Is there some divine plan? Is it all just random? Are some people spared from dying of cancer or car accidents or gun violence because they have a higher calling to fulfill? an organic purpose. And then I sit here considering my life, looking back on my near death experience and how I wasn't meant to die that day. And I wonder if I was spared that day because I had an organic purpose to fulfill. And you know what? The revelation that I had at 13 years of age that I wanted to make people feel good. I mean, this happened to me at 13. I knew I want to make people feel good. That has guided every choice I've made throughout my life, from acting and telling stories and delivering keynotes and writing my book and coaching people on their speeches and stories. My purpose is still to this very day to make people feel good. My purpose is that simple. If there is an answer to the question, what is the meaning of life? For me, it comes down to understanding what you are here to do, understanding your organic purpose, and then living your life and making your choices based on fulfilling your purpose. So I'm going to ask you a really strange question. Why are you alive? What's your organic purpose? Because you are here for a purpose. And I believe we achieve joy and meaning in our lives when we are living our purpose. And that purpose is first and foremost organic and natural to who you are and always have been, your God-given aptitudes and talents. And by living your purpose, you also serve others in some way. And I think that's what it's all about. We serve ourselves, we serve others. Simple. Now, I like to watch YouTube videos and Facebook short videos before I go to sleep at night. And there are a couple of people that appear to me that I see on these videos to be very clear about their organic purpose. There's this one young woman, and I love watching her videos. She works with abused or abandoned horses. She rescues and rehabilitates them and connects with them so deeply that these huge beasts, these monstrous, huge, beautiful beasts, these beautiful horses who come to her emaciated and damaged, not trusting anyone, over time, she earns their trust. And then they end up coming to her and they cuddle with her and they give her nudges and kisses as if they're just big dogs. They grow to trust her. And she just knows how to do that energetically, with love, with calmness, with patience, and with some kind of extraterrestrial communication or something. They come to her and she seems to know that the way she is with horses, the way she heals their broken bodies and spirits, that's her organic purpose. And it's easy for her. Another example of someone who wakes up every day with purpose is a young girl that I see on these videos. She's on some of the video shorts. She loves to run, but not just run. She's about 8 or 9 years old, and she is a competitive runner. She loves to race. She does workouts and trains like an adult, someone much older. She does strengthening exercises and lunges and runs sprint after sprint and laps around the track. I mean, this young girl at this very early age takes running very seriously. She runs with joy and purpose. And you know what? Nobody has to tell her to train hard. She wants to do it because she has the heart of a runner, of a competitor. And because she was born with this natural desire, this natural talent, she not only enjoys it, but she wins all of her races. She's amazing. You can see it in her face. You can see it in her eyes. She is out there to compete and she loves it. And it's fun for her. But make no doubt about it, that's her natural gift. That's her organic purpose. She was born an athlete and running is her sport. It gives her joy to work out and train and compete. So what I take from watching her and so many other young people who are born with an aptitude or talent for something is that you don't have to wonder what your organic purpose is. You just have to acknowledge what it is that you're naturally drawn to, naturally good at. It was there when you were starting out in school. It's the thing that you didn't have to work hard at because you just got it. Think about that. What did you just know? What did you just do organically? It was natural for you. Another example, and I want you to understand that I'm not talking about famous people or people who changed the world in some large way. Another example is this lady that I recently met who works behind the scenes at a nonprofit here in Tucson. I'm retired and I've got a lot of time on my hands, and I decided I needed to find a way to volunteer somewhere a couple hours a week. So I applied and was chosen to work in a hospital helping out on the surgery wing. And I found out that there's a lot of hoops you have to go through to get cleared to volunteer in a hospital, health checks, security checks. And this woman, her name is Dawn, this small older woman was my first contact during the onboarding process, my first interview. And she was just so happy and kind and welcoming and organized that I walked out from my first meeting thinking, well, if she's the kind of employee this organization has working for them, well, they're doing something right. So later on, after a couple of more interviews and different trainings and stuff, I had to go back to her later on to get my schedule changed. And so she invited me into her small cubicle of an office with a cheerful attitude, once again, because she's always cheerful. She pulled up a chart on a computer, sussed out what needed to be done to accommodate my change in scheduling, got me sorted. But while we were doing that, she's answering the phones and helping other people, making notes on tiny sheets of scrap paper. And she did it all with effortless joy and technical skill. And watching her and being in her presence showed me what living a life with an organic purpose means. She's a helper. She's an administrator. She's an organizer. She's the person that everyone turns to get things done. It's simple for her. She just does what she does. But I'm pretty sure she's always been doing all that. It's simple. Do what you're good at that brings you joy in service of others. Now, I've been a big fan of actress Anna Kendrick for many years as an actor and singer and performer. But what I didn't realize until recently is that she's been singing and dancing since she was born. But I also saw on a video clip on YouTube that she made her Broadway debut at 13 in the musical High Society. I saw a clip of one of the scenes from the show on YouTube, and I was blown away by how confidently she held her own in a scene with seasoned adult actors around her. It was like she was born to sing and act on Broadway, but she was only 13. But her talent, her voice, and her acting and her poise was that of someone who was born to do this. Her talent and discipline and professionalism came naturally. She is fulfilling her organic purpose by simply doing what she was born to do, sing and act and perform. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Your organic purpose and what you need to do to pay the rent and your car payments may not be the same thing. You may need to fulfill your organic purpose outside of your job. So let's talk about my dad, Jerry Stevenson. He was an insurance salesman. He worked in an office in downtown Chicago. He also had his own insurance brokerage that he ran out of a small corner office in our small apartment. But neither of those were his organic purpose. I grew up knowing my dad as a Cub Scout leader and a Boy Scout troop master. I found out later on that he had a rough childhood, and he was often on his own on the streets of Chicago during the Depression. His father worked on the railroads and was gone most of the time, so he grew up without good male role models. And I believe he found his organic purpose in being that father figure, that role model, that steady influence for young boys in the Scouts programs. He was a natural born leader. He was an organizer, an advocate for things he believed in. Back in the early 60s, and this still blows me away. Back in the early 60s, long before recycling was a movement, he decided on his own to get our neighbors to bundle their newspapers and set them out in the alley. And he and I would drive down the alley and collect the bundles of newspapers and put them in the back of our station wagon and drive them to a recycling place. Now, this was before iPads and phones, and this was when newspapers were paper. And people started to think, what are we going to do with all this paper that's just trash? We need to do something with this. His organic purpose was not fulfilled at his job. It was outside of work, as a Cub Scout and Boy Scout leader and neighborhood activist. So here's my challenge for you. Think back to your childhood and what you were naturally drawn to, what you didn't have to try hard to be good at, what subjects you got good grades in school, what after-school activities did you participate in? Sports, drama, chess clubs, science fairs, choir, church, baking, gardening. What did you do that you miss because life and responsibility got in the way? And what can you add back in your life that will fill you and also, and this is important, provide a service to others? You are here for a purpose, an organic purpose. Live your life on purpose, my friends. And in the process, you're going to create some amazing stories. All right, well, that's it for this episode. If you feel that you learned something valuable today, something that you can use that will make your stories stick, stories that make you and your business memorable, marketable, and monetizable, there are 3 things I'd like you to do. First, click on the follow or subscribe button and leave a review wherever you listen. And second, share this podcast with your friends and coworkers, your email list, and on social media. And third, connect with me on LinkedIn. And when you're ready to get serious about taking your stories to the next level, or if you have an important speech, presentation, or TED Talk coming up, or if you want some guidance on how to make the transition to becoming a professional speaker, let's schedule your free 30-minute coaching session where we can get to know each other and see if we're a good fit. And as always, I'd love to hear from you with your questions and comments. Let me know that you're out there listening and learning. You can send an email with your questions, comments, and suggestions to Deborah@DougStevenson.com. That's Deborah, Deborah, @DougStevenson.com. Hey, thanks for listening. Until the next episode, I'm Doug Stevenson.